Hey, good morning. It's Tuesday morning. I hope you are doing well in internet land as we stay connected to each other in this time through technology. Technology. That's the word we're looking for. Technology, social media, YouTube, these type things. So it's always a joy to be with you. Thank you for the good feedback I've heard from these online videos. I do hope that they are strengthening your faith and helping you grow closer to the Lord each day as we live in these times that are a little bit different. We figure out different ways to connect to each other, different ways to share the word, different ways to share what God's doing. And by the way, this is one of the great things that you now have at your disposal. One of the things I've always said as a pastor is that there's just one of me and a bunch of y'all. So if there's anything that I'm doing or that St. Matthew's is doing in the season or any other church that is doing or any other pastor is doing, share that with others. Share it through email or textbook or Facebook. Textbook? Boy, I can already tell today's been one of them days. Share it through text or Facebook, Twitter, social media, in whatever way. Share the good news that God is doing through technology with other people we need encouragement these days. So I feel like that's one of my jobs right now is to help encourage you so that we can help encourage each other. So thanks for watching this. I hope that today's video can be a blessing to you. Today we're going to be reading the gospel lesson suggested for this morning is from from Mark chapter 8. It's the feeding of the 4,000. I'm going to read Mark 8, 1 through 10 this morning. So this is Mark 8, 1 through 10. It says, in those days, there was again a great crowd without anything to eat. He called his disciples and said to them, I have compassion for the crowd, because they have been with me for 3 days and have had nothing to eat. If I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way. Some of them have come from a great distance. His disciples replied, how can one feed these people with bread here in the desert? He asked them, how many loaves do you have? They said 7. He ordered the crowd to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves. After giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples to distribute. And they distributed them to the crowd. They also had a few fish. After blessing them, he ordered that these too should be distributed. They ate and were filled. They took up the broken pieces that were left over, 7 baskets full. Now there were about 4,000 people, and he sent them away. It's a beautiful story in Mark's gospel of Jesus' provision for the people. Like I said, I read Mark 8, 1 through 9. And there's so many things that when I read this, one of the things that's important to do when you read scripture is pay attention to what jumps off the page to you. When you're reading, there may be a word, a phrase, a concept, something that may jump off the page. And when that happens, pay special attention to that. I've always been told that when something jumps off the page to you when you're reading, that's God's way of trying to get your attention. So today, as I read this, as I was reading this in preparation for this morning, reading this today, there were a couple things that jumped off the page to me. Let me share with you what it was that jumped off the page. Really, it's verse 2 and verse 4 that really jumped out to me. Verse 2 is this: Jesus says, I have compassion for the crowd, because they have been with me now for 3 days, have had nothing to eat. I think it's important for us sometimes to be reminded of the compassion of Christ. Compassion is a big deal. Empathy, if you will, it's a big deal. One of my favorite verses. I see compassion and kindness and empathy all kind of tied together. One of my favorite verses for preaching is Romans 2:4, where Paul writes these words: do you not know that you are driven to repentance by the kindness of Christ? That's always stuck with me. That is God's kindness and mercy that are his most overwhelming qualities. That God is a kind and a compassionate God. A God who shows mercy after mercy after mercy. You know the old hymn and the old quotation from Lamentations. Morning by morning new mercies I see. We see that Jesus here in verse 2 sees this great crowd and has compassion. Compassion implies closeness, if you will. You may feel sorry for somebody you don't know, but you feel compassion folks that mean something to you. Jesus felt compassion for these people because it says that they'd been with him for 3 days. He ached for them, and he longed to heal their needs. So Jesus had compassion. So today, know that no matter where you find yourself in the midst of our quarantining and things like that, or just in the midst of life, you may be struggling with a sin right now that's felt overwhelming. You may be struggling with some difficult decisions. You may feel completely overwhelmed by life right now. If that's the case, hear what Jesus said. He said he has compassion on them. He has compassion for us. When we weep, he weeps. He loves us. Always know that. He loves you this morning. Then notice that with the words of the disciples in verse 4. His disciples replied, "How can one feed these people with bread here in the desert?" Okay, the disciples are very I haven't been to that spot, but when you go into the desert there in Israel, there ain't much there. I mean, like, we even got Dollar Generals in Boca Chica now. So there's Dollar Generals everywhere. There's a little Dollar General off our road that we keep in business. I joke sometimes it'd be easier for us just to buy cow, because we go to that Dollar General so often to buy milk. It'd probably be cheaper just for us to buy a cow. They were in a place in this desert, like I said, in Israel. Well, there's nothing there. And so Jesus feels compassion for these people. And he knows that if I send them away without anything, they're going to faint. They're going to die. They're not going to make it if I send them away with nothing. But the disciples say, "But Lord, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to, we can't do anything." I mean, we hurt for them too. We feel bad too, but there's nothing here. There's no Walmart. There's no Dollar General. There's no farmer's market. There's nothing. What do we want us to do? So Jesus then takes their available resources. He says, "What do you have?" "We got 7 loaves. We got a few fish." They pass them out, and they give them to the people. I think we see some interesting dichotomies that we can look at in our faith, in our life. We see here that Jesus had compassion, and that compassion drove him. So as Christians, those that follow Jesus, we should be driven by compassion. We need to be very careful hardening our hearts. There's a great quote by Lewis. You remember my sermon from Sunday, I quoted my man C.S. Lewis. I mean, come on, who doesn't love C.S. Lewis? But Lewis says in Screwtape, I'm paraphrasing here, Screwtape is trying to get Christians to feel but not act. He says, always let them feel but never act. For the more they feel, the less they act, the less they will feel. We have to allow our feelings, our compassion that we feel towards others and their pain, drive us in some way to action. Because if we don't let that compassion drive us to action, then eventually our compassion will fail, and we'll stop feeling anything for people. So as Christians, we need to feel that compassion for others, even if we can't fix it. I have great compassion for what's happening in the world today, knowing, but I can't fix it all. I can't. I have great compassion for those that are struggling with poverty, mental illness, addiction. And I try to help when I can and what I can, but I know that I can't fix that in and of myself. None of us can. So, compassion. It's got to drive us to action. So the disciples see the inadequacy. Yeah, Jesus, we feel it too. We feel your compassion, but what are we going to do? So what's Jesus say? He says, "Okay, well, give me what you got. Give me what you got. Give me what you got, and we'll figure it out." So they give him what they got, and it turns out that through his grace, they had enough to take care of everything. There's great needs around us. Great needs in our family. Great needs in our life. Great needs all around us. And sometimes we are more prone, at least I am, more prone to look at what I can't do, or look at what I don't have, or look at the height of the mountain, instead of remembering that our God can do abundantly more than we can ever imagine. He didn't say, hey, I got this. He didn't say that. What he said, "Hey, what you got? See what happens." And they gave him what they had. And look what happened. Today, beloved brothers and sisters, you can't fix everything. In fact, we probably feel overwhelmed by a lot right now, don't we? We really do. But here's what you can do. You can text 3 people. You can check on your neighbor. You can write a Facebook message to a friend that you hadn't talked to in a while. Yeah, we can't do everything. But the Lord can take what we have and what we're willing to share with Him and do abundantly more than we think possible. So today, may we be driven by His compassion. May we understand that, yeah, we can't do everything, particularly today. But then let's offer up to Him what we do have. And let's see what He does with it. So today, be faithful. Be encouraged. Y'all, be encouraged. God is with us. God has not left our side. He's going to walk with us. Be encouraged. So be an encouragement to somebody today. Somebody's going to need your encouragement. So offer to Jesus what you have and know that He would do great things with it. Thanks for watching this. I'll be back tomorrow morning praying for you. Love you. I'm here for you. Message me, text me, call me, reach out to me. I'd love to be in conversation with you. Love you. Praying for you. Be encouraged. Talk to you tomorrow.